regulate it too much. So immediately when the crisis hits, we spend more, we borrow more, we print more, and we regulate more. You can't believe the regulations that are being poured out up in Washington. And the regulations skyrocketed during the 30s, which always put a damper on the markets. When Enron failed, immediately we passed Sarbanes-Oxley. Sarbanes-Oxley's turned over 3 of us that voted against it. Sarbanes-Oxley now is recognized as one of the stimulants for businesses leaving this country. But everybody rushes, whether the Republicans or Democrats, they rush to regulate and spend. They just can't stand the idea of just backing off a little bit and believing that freedom can work. Freedom does work, but we have to understand it, we have to trust it, and we have to get the people that be willing, of course, to take care of themselves, because otherwise you're going to continue this process for a long, long time. And that means, you say, some people will argue with me and they say, oh, you mean you're just going to quit doing this? Somebody's going to suffer, somebody's going to suffer. Possibly, less so than what's happening now. We've never done this. But can you imagine what's going to happen when there's a dollar crisis and we're in the midst of a dollar rapidly depreciating? That is big stuff. A dollar depreciating this way, which we've been doing for a long, long time. You know, in 1971, the dollar was depreciated by 8%. On August 15, 1971, a major announcement. The event that got my attention to start talking about economics and running for Congress. 8%, here's his story. That good old conservative Republican Nixon did that. And he closed the gold window. Told them we're not going to live up to our promise. Put on a huge tax on imports. Put on wage and price controls. And the market went up and the Chamber of Commerce applauded. But since 1971, the dollar has depreciated 98%. That's what has happened. We're working from the dollar that the Federal Reserve got in 1913, it's down to about 4 cents right now. And you don't get rich by destroying the money. This idea, oh yes, cheap dollar, we're going to get more exports. Yeah, for a week or two, maybe, but you get good exports when you have a sound economy and good products and you're competitive and a lot of other things. But this idea that we can be more competitive and export our goods if we have a cheap dollar. Now, if you all work and have money in the bank and you're getting a paycheck, how could it be an advantage to you to say, oh yeah, this is a good idea, a weak dollar is fine, because next week you'll give me 98 cents instead of $1. Next week it'll be 94 cents. And the people who say, the one who did want to take care of themselves, they have money in the bank, and instead of getting 6% interest or 7%, which the market might give you, you get 1% because the government drives it down and benefits the banks. So it just goes on, but right now, though, the dollar has been sliding, slipping and sliding, but when a country loses control of its finances, eventually the rest of the world gives up on that currency. Now, the truth is, I thought they'd give up on the dollar a long time ago. The dollar has been living on borrowed time, and it's been living on borrowed time for 2 reasons, because up until now we have been by far the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and we also continue to be the most powerful military power in the world today. And for this reason, even though after 1971 the dollar was no longer as good as gold, the people still believed, oh, we'll take your dollars anyway, and they kept using them, which taught us to be very lazy, collectively speaking. Because it was much easier to print money and spend it overseas and get goods, and they accumulated the dollars. Now they're in the driver's seat. They're in the driver's seat. They're holding our dollars. They can dump them anytime they want, and they're starting to take it less anxiously, and they're starting to invest in other things. The Chinese are interested in Iran. It's close to where they live, you know, and they keep an eye on it. They're not about to provoke the Iranians or threaten them like we do with all those countries over there. But they're investing over there. They're investing in oil and in gasoline production and in refinery plants. And they have a much better, they're acting like capitalists. And we're acting like aggressors. We're over there telling what to do it our way. We have a terrible choice in our foreign policy. We have 2 choices. We'll go and talk to a country, and if they do exactly as we tell them and they're obedient, we give them a lot of money. But if they don't do it, we send over the bombs. And I say there's a third option. Why don't we just mind our own business and get along? Last week it was announced that $100 million will be spent to build bases in Romania and Bulgaria. Why do you want bases? Why do you want $100 million of your money being spent in Romania and Bulgaria? Why do you want more troops sent over to Afghanistan? The Afghans aren't going to attack us. Let me tell you that. They don't have an army or navy or anything, and they don't have any intercontinental ballistic missiles, and we're doing this for national security reasons. I think the argument that it might have to do with the pipeline is not a much more plausible reason. Then again, we're for democracy, and we have to spread democracy even if it's through the barrel of a gun. But democracy sometimes is a questionable position to hold, because democracy sometimes can backfire on you when the majority becomes a dictator and takes away your rights. It's not such a great idea. But in this country we have two major parties, and they do work together on a lot of things, believe it or not. They do not agree on who controls the power. They like power, and there's two different groups up there. We control power, we control power. But does foreign policy ever change, no matter what the debates were in the campaigns? In the year 2000, our president then, our candidate said that we need no more nation building. We don't need to be the policeman of the world. Then he won the election. And of course, the peace candidate won once again. But what has happened over there? He's looking for more troops in Afghanistan. There's been quite a few drones being used since the beginning of this year bombing Pakistan. There was one individual, one leader of the enemy. I don't know how they figured all this out, but there's one guy they had to kill, and that would change the whole thing. So they sent 15 drones just after him. They missed the first 14. They got him on the 15th. But, it doesn't change anything, except for the fact that over 1,000 civilians were killed. They don't always hit the bad guys. And then people ask, why are they annoyed with us? Well, can you imagine how we would react if anybody dared do anything like that to us? But we're doing it all the time. We did that for a decade against the Iraqis. And then, of course, we had the invasion. Can you imagine how many hundreds of thousands of civilians have been killed in Iraq since that war has gone on? But then again, they just passed a law over there. There's going to be an election. And next January, there's going to be an election. And once the election's over, we're going to be coming home. But it's only the second time they tried it. And the odds of it being a good, straight, honest election, not all that good. The odds of us coming home from Iraq, not all that good. A few troops dribbled home, but we're putting in people who are paid people. The contractors. They're going in. They get paid 3 or 4 times more than our military. So we're keep putting them into those areas. Now, here with the two parties in charge, if you want to compete, you have a tough time. It's hard to get on ballots. They've got together and make sure the ballot, it's very hard to get on the ballots. What kind of coverage would an alternative party have? You don't get any debates, you get no credibility. So there's not that as much democracy here as we like to think. And we sometimes, though, think that we have this obligation to spread democracy. But the foreign policy stays the same, economic policy stays the same, monetary policy stays the same, and certainly what we do overseas stays the same. But now we send our kids over to Afghanistan to spread democracy. We're anxious for them to have an election. I've never been to that place and look at the tribalism that exists over there. They don't want a national election. And to force it on them, and to think that Karzai is a man of the people. He's a man of the CIA. That's who he